Welcome everyone. Today we'll be learning from one of the strongest builds in Path of Exile 2. And yes, as you guys can see behind me, this is gonna be an infinite blink forced war together with greater lightning bolt. But there is a massive difference between this build and also everything else. So yes, currently this is one of the strongest builds in the meta, and you can see the first demonstration is showcased in a tier 17 map. The second demonstration we'll show you guys is a tier 18 map, and you can see the speed of this build clearing out any map. And the combination of this build is actually incredible currently during the meta. It is very fast, very speedy, and you can see that the boss or everything will melt within seconds. Everything dies. And since the changes of the latest patch, you can see that the greater lightning bolt now deals a lot more damage. Together with the ability to overkill your force wall, this build has tons of AoE and number of overlooping trigger spells that can be potentially crazily strong once you do the combination correctly. And what we want to show you guys is the speed of clearing the map on this build. You can see on the first part we backtracked a little bit. So here we have another tier 18 map that is fully juiced up. And here we do have the modifiers, everything that is ready for the map. So let's have a look at this build in action in a tier 18 map. So how does this build work is that you'll be using Blink with no cooldowns with Temporalis. Together with greater lightning bolt and also auto casting on critical, you can be bouncing around, blinking around, auto casting sparks, greater lightning bolt, force wall, and also overkilling those. Once you get used to it, your speed of clearing the map is ridiculously good. You'll be traveling around in a very fast speed, and there's the boss, and there's the boss again. The boss disappears, and that was a tier 18 map. And just to summarize, you can see that we pretty much finished this entire tier 18 map all the way to the boss within about 15 to 20 seconds, and the build is incredibly powerful and also speedy for any of the endgame content. Now, in order to showcase you guys a little further, over here what you can see is the friend we're learning from Helleios. He's got to remove his main weapon, which is a +5 skills to lightning spells, and he's going to change this weapon into a random one that doesn't have any skill ranks. So he's going to use a much weaker weapon, which dramatically reduces damage by over 100%, and this still clears any of the content. So currently this particular build can be very broken with some of the cheaper gears as well, as long as you have the crucial unique item pieces, which we'll even talk about the potential to remove Temporalis to make it work. So you can see this whole combination of skills and also build works with tremendous overkill damage that is in so much excess that everything will die on the map the moment they appeared. And you don't even have to aim, everything is auto-triggered, auto-aimed, and it is amazingly powerful. Now, just to take this build a little further, you can actually sacrifice your skeleton minions to deal massive more multiplicative damage against the boss. So here we'll be using the Soul Offering, which will give you tons of damage against the boss, and that was a tier 18 boss, by the way. So not only does the build has a lot more damage with the latest setup, it can also allow us to sacrifice skeleton minions with a massive damage bonus, and that does that infinite loop against the boss, which can potentially deal billions of damage if the boss had enough HP. But no matter how much HP the boss had, this build has some really crazy combos that is out of this world powerful during the current meta for the Path of Exile 2 early access. Now, of course, similar to all of the builds guide, I'll be showcasing you guys everything related to the build with two different variants. One variant with higher damage, one variant with better FPS and also less looping, and also all the gears and also the skill tree, the passive that is related to this build that can make this work with amazingly high damage by stacking additional physical damage and also additional variants to the build. So make sure you guys check out the timestamps below for all the details related to this amazing Bloodmage build that is one of the strongest in the meta at the moment. Now over here you can see I actually prepared a lot of notes in regards to how the build works, the loop that it involves, and also how to deal the highest damage. We also have additional frequently asked questions which I go through with you guys about dealing even higher damage and also potential anointment. So here we do have the updated builder's guide with tons of variants related to this auto blink build. And before we dive into the builder's guide, I'd like to say a big thank you and also shout out to Helleios, one of our viewers on YouTube who reached out to me to share his amazing build. He would also like to thank Pynalin over here, who he was learning from and was supposed to be one of the first players to post about this combination of the build. We're also learning a bit from Fubgun, who has posted his latest version of the build. And it is different to the build we're currently using because we're also stacking additional physical damage with tons of additional damage that is also coming from sacrificing the minions with Soul Offering, which I explained to you guys with the core concept of the build. So coming over to the builder's guide, and let me briefly explain to you guys the concept of the build. So over here, what's happening is Temporalis will reduce the cooldowns of Force Wall and also Blink to make them have no cooldowns. You will be cast on critical with Greater Lightning Bolt, that is a free spell coming from the Troll of the Storms, and here we're overkilling the Force Walls we summon with Trample Toe. And this is all combined with abilities to auto-cast on dodge and also auto-cast on critical, which allows us to be casting automatic spark that critical hits that also generates more Force Wall, and as you destroy your Force Walls, you will be looping for more overkill damage that is combined with Trample Toe. A lot of damage is multiplied and also amplified over here. You can see we have additional damage or extra damage as lightning, and those damages can be looping for additional double or triple dipping, which will go through the nodes, and this allows us to do tons of more physical damage with the overkill damage that in return deals higher damage coming from the lightning bolt, again gaining additional extra damage as lightning, and this loop also continues. As you deal damage with overkill damage, you will also trigger cast on critical, and that loops for additional lightning sparks, and that loops for additional force wall, and finally having more looping of additional greater lightning bolt that triggers even high damage. We do have another variant which allows us to trigger over 30 to 36 shards of damage with Eye of Winter, which deals tremendous damage that shotgun or one-shot anything on the game. And we do have the Skeleton Warriors, which can be sacrificed for tons of more damage with Soul Offering, that before the boss fight you are doing so much damage, it one-shots pretty much everything by sacrificing the free minions you get coming from the Scepters over here. Now I know one of the drawbacks for this particular meta build is that the expensive of the gears, especially with Ingenuity build and also Temporalis together with additional gems and also potions. So in the previous video, we did have a combo that is revealed by the Chinese content creator that can potentially work without Temporalis. We also had a content creator who actually showcased this combo after watching my video, and he said this can work without Temporalis, but as you see the replies and also comments, that it is a little weaker without Temporalis. But should you guys want to try the build without Temporalis, it can potentially work, but it will take some tweaking. So make sure you check out the previous video and also his testing videos to see how this can work with a much more budget setup without Temporalis. But of course guys, ideally if you can save up to a Temporalis with some of the basic gears and also even with a wand that doesn't have any additional lightning spell ranks, and that still deals tons of damage because of the potential to loop multiple times and also double dip or triple dip with tons of additional damage. So now coming over to the choice of skill links for this particular build. So Lightning Bolt is a free skill coming from Trolls of Storm. You can of course use Lightning Amplifiers or Lightning Catalyst to increase the quality of Lightning Bolt by 20%, which is quite important to do because you will get 20% quality on the Lightning Bolt skill itself. Over here we'll be getting Concentrated Effect, we'll be getting Considerate Casting and also Spell Echo together with Lightning Mastery. Now in the first variant of the build, we'll be using both on cast on critical and also cast on dodge. There's another version that uses 2 cast on dodges instead of cast on critical should you guys have more delays or FPS problems. So on the first version, cast on critical is combined with Force Wall, Fortress, Spell Cascade, Energy Retention and also Impetus to summon tons of Force Wall and then casting multiple times and so tons of more Force Wall with those spells. Cast on dodge is combined with Spark and one more Spark together with Chain, Acceleration and also Brutality. So now why Brutality, you might be asking? So this is one of the hidden tech of the build. What we're doing is we're actually removing the damage factor coming from Spark. Spark is a lightning damage, right? So once you have Brutality, Spark actually no longer does damage, but it can still critical hit. So what that means is when Spark critical hit on the Force Wall or critical hit on the enemies, Spark will generate Lightning Bolt, and only Lightning Bolt will be doing damage to the Force Wall that overkills them. So we're removing the chance of Spark killing the Force Wall, which will do very minimal damage. We want Spark to be critical hitting, but we don't want Spark to do any damage. Spark is here to trigger the cast on critical and lead to the chain effect. So by having Brutality, Spark no longer does any elemental damage, and this means Spark is just here to critical hit that does no damage, but then triggers all the chain reactions, saving the Force Wall to 100% life, which allow us to guarantee the highest damage that is going to critical hit on the Force Wall and also overkill everything is going to be Lightning Bolt. This also keeps the Force Wall at maximal life, which also means we can benefit from one-shotting or bonus effects coming from the passive, which means when enemies, which Force Wall is also an enemy, when enemies are maximal life, you can also deal additional critical damage or having even higher critical chance against a maximal life enemy. So this is one of the hidden tech shared to me by my friend Helleios, and this is actually very creative to take away the damage with you coming from Spark. Now here we'll be combining Blink with Arcane Tempo and also Ingenuity for lower cooldowns and also better casting speed. Mana Remnant is great for us to have some mana recovery. As we go through the passive and also the juice, you can see that you can also get 2% mana on kill as well to help with a mana issue, because this build actually spends quite a bit of mana. Because we can stack additional life as the Bloodmage, having Life Remnant can double up with our excess life. And this allows us to overcap and also double our existing life. This can also be combined with Clarity if you have the additional spirit. And Life Remnant can really boost our survivability and also increasing our critical damage coming from the Ascension passives. We can combine Greenfest together with Cannibalism for additional life recovery, and this also allows us to overcap our energy shield. Now in the first variant of the build, we will be using Eye of the Winter. Now, Eye of Winter is multiplied and also increasing the amount of shard it produces. So the reason we're using Eye of Winter is that this actually fires multiple projectiles. It starts with 8 shard projectiles. And here with the Unleash, we can fire another Eye of Winter. So now we have 16 projectiles. Together with ability with Deceleration and also Wild Shards, which allows us to have more chance to fire more projectiles, you'll be looking at around 16 to 32 shards of projectiles. Each of the shards of projectiles can then deal critical damage, and then this triggers additional critical on hit, which triggers more Force Wall and also more greater Lightning Bolt. So this is one of the hidden mechanics to shotgun or one-shot the boss with over 1 billion damage. And this is actually crazily strong with the looping and also the damage it deals. Now here I do want to stress out, the Force Wall we're using will be very low level. Around level 7, level 8 is preferable. You can even go lower level for the lower mana cost and also lower maximum life for the Force Wall. So you can overkill for even higher damage. So just to show you guys over here, when Eye of Winter is casted, you can see this triggers so much looping and this pretty much one-shot everything. So he casted one Eye of Winter and the boss is annihilated. It melted within 1 second that the boss appeared. And that was from casting one Eye of the Winter. He's not blinking, he's not doing much. He just casted one Eye of the Winter and the boss disappeared. Now, of course, during the fight, you can see that my friend also used Soul Offering. Soul Offering, again, is sacrificing the 3 skeleton minions coming from the Scepter. So having this Rattling Scepter is actually quite beneficial, because this actually provides you with 2 skeleton warriors to be piking and also sacrificing them to provide yourself over 39% more spell damage. And that's not all. You can have obligation to have even higher increased damage and also buff effect. You have Dense Macabre to have more additional effect coming from those buffs. You can even combine this one with Persistence, Front of Rage, and also Front of Mana for additional buffs. But most of the time, guys, the combination against the boss is incredibly powerful. And you can see in the demonstrations, my friend sacrifices Skeleton Warriors, dealing tons of more spell damage, and one Eye of the Winter that destroyed anything on the map. And that includes the boss, of course. Now, should you guys find the looping and also the auto casting a little too much, you can of course use the second variant, which I'll show you guys as well. Of course, you can sacrifice your minions and then you can just blink around and things will also die very quickly. So in order to help you guys with the FPS issue of having more flexibility for the build, we do have another variant which is coming with 2 cast on dodges. So over here you can see the second cast on dodge will actually replace the cast on critical. This also summons tons of force wall, but this removes the additional FPS stress and also delays of FPS. If you guys are having problem with cast on critical, you can try the second method. And this method also changes one of the supporter gems for the lightning bolt with Racing Tempest. This will also deal additional damage coming from this particular support gem. So those 2 variants will be available for you guys to have a look should you want to try different variants, and you can see the demonstrations against the boss. Because the build does so much damage, it is hard to tell how much real damage we're actually doing, but it is definitely over hundreds of millions and also over billions of damage. Now finally, we do have another variant should you guys want to use Archmage, which is not recommended for the build simply because this will cost too much mana, and the bonus damage coming from maximum mana is not that necessary because you're doing so much more damage. But if you guys have additional spirit, you can consider Archmage, but what we do recommend is considering using this combo: Linear Illusion and also Charge Infusion. So over here we're learning this combo coming from Fubgun, from his latest variant of the build. And coming from Fubgun, Charge Illusion and also together with the ability to grant additional charges. As we move away from the illusions, we will be granted additional power charge, sometimes 2 power charges. Those power charges can be in return to provide you with additional critical hit chance, which will help you to get over 80, 90 or even 100% critical chance, which again will trigger tons of cast on critical and looping and also dealing even high damage because of this. So there is additional variant should you guys have additional spirit to go into this build for even higher damage using the latest combinations coming from Fubgun. So coming over to the skill passives for this build, you can see that we're starting up as the Bloodmage, and of course we'll be getting additional bonus critical chance with spells, and over here additional life spell damage Lich's life, and of course for every maximum life we have even higher critical damage over here. Now in terms of pathing for the build, some of the major nodes we look into is additional critical chance for spells and also additional casting speed. We do have Mind Over Matter to give us more defensiveness, together with increasing area of effect, because we'll be stacking area of effect that in return help us to do even higher area with overkill damage coming from Trample Toe. Over here we do have a number of nodes that is providing us with more maximum energy shield and also more intelligence. Coming over here you can see there will be more nodes coming over here to increase the damage coming from trigger spells. Should you guys have not enough critical hit chance, you can even come over here for additional meta skill energy, which with my friend's current setup, he's sitting on 80 to 90% critical chance, so he no longer needs those nodes. Now once you guys have achieved around 80% critical chance, and if we come over here with the latest combination with Linear Illusion and also Charge Infusion, those additional more critical hit chance can amplify your critical hit chance up to 100%. So this is how you can get 100% critical chance for the build should you lack a little bit of critical chance. So around 80 to 82% critical chance can push you over with this 20% more critical hit chance with a power charge over here with the latest combo. And over here we do have a lot of benefits coming with increased critical chance and also even higher damage dealt if you cast the trigger spells. We will be using Eternal Youth, and this allows us to generate energy shield with potions, and this is also very powerful with retaining our energy shield. Over here we have Wildstone with additional lightning damage, and a few of the nodes that is over here to allow us to have additional critical chance against enemies on full life. So what that means is, remember previously we purposely removed the damage from Spark. So against enemies, which is also one of the force walls, we will be dealing increasing critical hit chance, and this allows our greater lightning bolt to have even more chance of critical hitting, which means we deal even higher damage against enemies on full life. Again, over here we'll be getting additional critical chance, more critical chance, and also even high critical bonus damage. And finally, to finish things off, for more survivability, we also have additional 1 charm slot. which allows us to have the charms for frozen and also for stunning charms over here for more protection. There's a more variant over here in the notes to show you guys what to do with other choices of the charms and also anointments. So going over to the choices of the jewels over here, you can see some of the rare jewels will be getting additional energy shield, additional spell critical damage, more area of effect, and also higher critical chance. Area of effect is quite preferable, and this can really amplify your damage. Again, you can see more critical chance, more area of effect, spell critical damage, and also energy shield is preferable for the setup. And of course, you guys can see all the related effects with the jewels. Now, one of the bigger jewels is going to be controlled metamorphosis. This one allows you to perk for the passes within the range, which saves us tons of passive points to get pure power over here that allows us to do even higher lightning damage. And the controlled metamorphosis also allows us to have controlled magic, which doesn't require us to take all the minimum points over here, which is also great. As we keep moving with the jewels, you can see a lot of the rare jewels are very similar. So coming over here with From Nothing. From Nothing is going to be within the radius of the Enriched Battery, which in return allows us to have the major nodes like Arcane Intensity over here for increasing damage with maximum mana, and also Raw Mana over here for more mana and also lower mana spell cost. We can of course go over here to consider going with Lightning Quick or even additional branching bolts over here if you guys want and also have the spare points because of the free allocation that is available coming from this particular jewel with From Nothing. And finally, as for the rest of the jewel sockets, it is still follow the same thing. We'll be going with maximum energy, additional critical hit chance, and here, as we mentioned previously, if you are short on mana, having 2% mana on kill is great for the build, together with additional area of effect. Now my friend has stacked close to 200% area of effect, which really allows his overpower to be spreading in a wider radius. And finally over here, we do have a special unique jewel called the Megamaniac Diamond, and this allows you to allocate different spells on the corrupted jewel. This is one of the first time I actually see this particular jewel in action. So this allows you to allocate multiple nodes that is available on the passive tree. And this one is quite interesting if you guys do want to look into this, which also looks very powerful with this particular unique diamond. So you can see this is allocating for Fractured Signs, this is allocating for Goring, and also allocating for Primal Growth. Goring over here is going to be amazing for us to do even high damage. So just to show you guys Goring over here, Goring will allow us to do another 40% increased physical damage and also 30% of amount of life leached. We do lose a bit of maximum life, but the increase of physical damage is actually a massive multiplier because this will increase the overkill damage coming from Trample Toe, which can be double dipping for even higher damage. Now briefly going through the choices of the gears and also important affixes. My friend was very nice to copy paste all of his current stats of the gears. So you can see for the main weapon, we're using a Siphoning Wand with +5 to lightning spells. Together with additional extra damage as lightning damage, more maximum mana, and so casting speed, this is going to be one of the super powerful wands that is available for most of the lightning spark build. Now, if in case you guys are wondering, we do have a demonstration to show that even if you're fighting the boss and also the enemies without the right wand, even with a weaker round without +5 to lightning spells, the build can still deal tons of damage. So don't be too worried if you don't have the perfect stats for those gears. Now I figured again, it's probably easy if I should show you guys the in-game stats. It is a little smaller to zoom in, but you can still see the stats my friend is currently using. So coming back to the helmet. The helmet, we do want high energy shield, more mana, more rarity, and also even higher critical hit chance with additional stats. Now we mentioned about the weapon before, and you can see the choices of the stats of his Temporalis. And over here you can see the Troll of the Storm. Over here, this is again modified by Lightning Catalyst for 20% more. And here you want as high rank as the greater lightning bolt as you can for the greatest damage. In terms of the scepter, notice that my friend doesn't have plus rank to minion spells, but rather he's getting 88% increased spirit, which really allows him to run additional auras and also trigger spells. And you can see here, the Trample Toe, it is corrupted to 37% of overpowered overkill damage, which is going to be amazing. In terms of agility to build, you do want to look for the breakpoint of 75, 70 or 80% or even higher. Every 5% will greatly increase the damage and also bonus coming from the rings. In terms of the gloves, we have maximal energy shield, additional energy shield, more intelligence, and also more resistance. And over here, in terms of the bridge rings, we're looking for additional maximum mana, more rarity, more resistance, and also even higher resistance. And you can see on the second rings over here, we have additional mana, rarity, more casting speed, and also more resistance. Finally, in terms of the charms, you can go with higher duration, recharging charms per second, and this can be for the frozen and also for the stunning charms. And of course, the melting maelstrom will allow us to top up our mana and also dealing even higher chaos damage for a few seconds after using the potion. Now, similar to before, if you guys want to go through the details of the items for this build, everything's available should you go into the timestamps at the end of the build. So coming over to the skill rotation for the build, it is very straightforward. You're basically blinking and that's all you're doing for the majority of the mapping. You're blinking around and everything is auto-casted. There's nothing to do other than looting items, and if you have a strict loot filter like my friend, well, you're just clearing out maps in like 20 or 30 seconds as you travel across the map. You can see the maximum life and also maximum mana and also maximum energy shield can be increased as you overcap those and allow you to deal even high damage. But most of the time, nothing is really going to bother you, and as we keep fasting forward a little bit, you can see that my friend was sharing with me that he mentioned that on the second demonstration of a tier 18 map, he was blinking so fast he didn't even notice he was facing the boss and the boss was one-shotted. So you can see for the entirety of this tier 18 run to the boss, it took him less than 20 seconds. And this is after backtracking a little bit. And once you get to the boss, well, everything's auto-casted, you don't have to worry, and there was the boss. Now, should you guys want to have more damage against pinnacle bosses, you can of course be casting 1 or 2 spells. So in the first variant with Eye of the Winter Shotgun, you can be casting your Soul Offering to sacrifice your skeleton warriors, and then just cast Eye of the Winter. And there we go, that one-shots the boss with infinite looping with tons of damage. Of course, if you want something more flexible, you can sacrifice your minions and then cast your tons of dodges in the second variant, and this also loops a lot and destroy the boss within 1 to 2 seconds, and the boss dies so fast, you don't actually get to see it. Now coming over to our notes for more explanation of the build. At the start of the fight, we're casting Blink to be dodging, which triggers cast on dodge that auto cast Spark. And because of the unique chest Temporalis, we have 0 cooldowns on Blink and also lower cooldowns or 0 cooldowns on Force Wall, which is auto trigger when cast on critical is triggered. We'll be stacking a lot of critical rate. Together, this will trigger cast on critical coming from the Amulet with greater lightning bolt of GLB. And this is of course coming from the unique Amulet. The auto-casted Spark hitting the Force Wall that is generated coming from cast on critical can be critical hitting, not critical hiring. And then this of course leading to more greater lightning bolt and also Force Wall to be summoned. So at this moment, we also talk about using Brutality to take away the damage from Spark, so it only critical hits the Force Wall, but it doesn't damage them, to allow you to spend even more greater lightning bolt and also overkilling the Force Wall. The greater lightning bolt hitting the Force Wall will produce more critical hitting, and this increases our looping. Now the massive overkill damage from killing the Force Wall, which they have around 800 HP if you select Force Walls with level 7 or level 8 or even lower level Force Walls, and having over at least 50,000 damage on your greater lightning bolt or even higher damage scaling from the multipliers, means that the unique boots allows us to overkill massively. The overkill damage was tested by my friend to be physical damage. So we're also scaling towards physical damage bonus and also area of effect damage for massive AoEs and to clear multiple screams. Now during this time, we're double dipping or triple dipping with additional damage as lightning. So the additional damage of lightning will amplify the damage dealt by greater lightning bolt at the start. And this amplified damage then hits the Force Wall. And the Force Wall is destroyed into Force Shot that deals overkill damage, which is not physical. This physical damage in return double dips for additional amplified bonus damage as extra lightning damage, which again is increased by a spell damage, more lightning damage, and also all the multipliers in the passive tree. And as we summon more Force Walls and also more greater lightning bolt, this loop continues for double or triple dipping for additional extra damage, and this is amplified by all the physical damage node and also increase we have for the skills for the overkill damage. And over here, some additional notes and also additional questions some of my viewers will be asking us, and we want to, I guess, help you guys on this part. Should you be getting additional extra damage as fire or cold damage? It is doable, guys, but we're scaling towards more physical damage and also more lightning damage in this sense. So yes, it can work with extra damage as fire or cold, but ideally just scaling to additional damage or extra damage as lightning together with more physical damage means we'll actually do more multiplicative of damage coming from the skills and also passives. We are getting a massive damage bonus coming from the Soul Offering combo, and sacrificing the 2 free skeleton warriors coming from the wand means that this almost doubles our damage before the boss fight. Because this is a more spell multiplier, it is a massive bonus to any of the spellcasting build to be using this latest combo with Soul Offering. So if you're playing a mage class, you want more damage, this is the way to go. And finally, in terms of the Amulet Anointment choices, if you guys are not needing additional charms, which we had in this particular setup, because the only thing that kills us is coming from stuns or freeze, you can go with a number of the other options over here, including the Harmonic Generator, which will also increase the shock inflicted, but mostly additional critical hit chance. Or you can go with Goring, which is also giving us additional physical damage and also increase the life leech. You will lose a bit of maximum life, but the physical damage increase is a massive multiplier that amplifies our overkill damage, which in return continues to loop for additional damage. So the focus of the build is definitely with AoE spell damage and also physical damage to amplify the bonus damage even further over here. So there we go, guys. What I do now is I'll provide you guys with all the skill links related to both of those variants. You can see my friend Helleios is very nice to share everything related to the build. Let us know in the comments below if you have any questions regards to this build. And at the moment, we do think this build is one of the strongest in multiplicative damage looping and also stacking more physical damage and also more area of effect together with using different offerings really help to excel this build, pushing it to the highest damage and also the strongest build that is available currently in the early access meta. So again, a big thank you for everyone for sharing and also constantly updating this build. And if you guys are trying out this build, one of the warnings is that you can't go back to any other build. I look into my summoners, it's just not comparable compared to this speedy build that does so much damage and have so much mobility and also survivability. Now hopefully you guys found today's video helpful. Again, a big thank you to everyone on YouTube, especially our supporters and also those of you guys who's been supporting me on Patreon as well. And we do have a new feature on the Mattjestic YouTube channel. If you click onto this, you can become a member. Yes, I've added this just recently, and this will allow you to have early access to videos that is posted a few hours or even half a day earlier if you want to watch those videos a little early. But yes, this will cost money. So please be aware the membership will cost money. And if you do want to watch videos normally, those videos will still be available after 6 to 12 hours, normally on the time we post those videos. And I'll be aiming to post at least one Path of Exile video a day, and this will be including guides, tips, news update, and also the latest tricks that is discovered on both the English and also Chinese community to keep you guys updated. And if you like those videos, make sure you leave a nice comment and also leave a like for those videos.
on flesh.
Believe me, you will fall, Exile.
Now, before we finish, if you guys haven't subscribed, this is a really good time to do so because I'll be looking into the latest Path of Exile 2 news on different communities and also on our official forum, official webpage. I'll also be looking into the best build for each of the class as the meta develops with the Chinese and also the English community. So stay tuned for the latest update and also guides for Path of Exile 2. And of course, this is gonna be a big month for us. And I'll try to bring you guys all of the latest content and also guides for Path of Exile 2 to come.